become so prominent, is the art of poetry still powerful? Has it become more relevant? And does it still pack a punch? Is it creating clutter like Twitter does with political dialogue?
On social media, I do connect with really amazing young poets. The voice is really strong. They are technical. They are using forms, and of course, slam poetry is something which is dynamic. It's like beat poetry at the end of the day. You use the medium to speak up.
Do songs and poetry have that power, have the power to mobilize people and to kind of like instill the eternal nature of ideas beyond politics? Has social media just kind of upped the ante of their effect? Like if you see in movements like the Me Too movement?
When the Me Too movement was taking place, when it kind of started and there was all this fire and anger, this collective feminine anger that we could feel, and I think as women we all felt so empowered and so justified in that moment, and it was wonderful. But I wrote something at that point, and I've never done this before, but I was inspired to actually write a kind of slam rap poem. So I'll try and do it right now.
There is no middle ground. You're either left or you're right, and no matter what stand you take, you're crucified on either end. When he enters that social media landscape, the backlash can be brutal.
बहुत layers में हम जीते हैं, and then we put up a brave front that we are out there, and it's very risky that if you're telling the truth.
And I think if you begin to engage with people who aren't sensitive, it can be really, really depressing.
Why men retaliating,
So when I retaliate, it is almost always through poetry again.
Social media has become so prominent. Is the art of poetry still powerful? Has it become more relevant? And does it still pack a punch like it traditionally did? And before we kick off with the discussion, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, Shoma? Yeah. Can you kick us off with few lines of your favorite song? A nice lyrical start to this discussion on poetry.
Sure. I'm just going through. I'm starting with Vyogi. The word Vyogi means one who burns. In fires of separation, certain adapt what he gives, he turns. To condensing the world synonym, to all he lacked in life in this world. Belifting every moment, every climb. When by your presence he is deeply stirred, he burns for that demanded loveless time. Thank you so much.
And tell me one thing, as a musician, so you've read that out.
Sure.
You find those lyrics beautiful, you find them engaging. But in this current day and age, you as a musician, as a writer, singer-songwriter, how essential is the social media platform for you to push your art?
I think the social media is one of the key elements right now to promote any art of work right now. So, and in case of poetry or when you are doing anything out of the box, so social media platform is one of the great platforms right now. You can do it for free. You made a video on YouTube and it will get 1K or 2K likes and it will get viral. And whatever you do, social media is a very powerful platform nowadays. And for poetry, I know it will be a very powerful tool also. Thank you so much.
We have Ezra Parekh over here as well. And, you're no stranger to the social media landscape, of course. Your political commentary as well as your poetry is for everyone to see on your Instagram feed. I always wonder, social media is a force that creates ideational democracy. Everyone has a platform. Is that an empowering thing, or is it creating like Twitter? How many would you agree that Twitter is no place for sound political engagement? Or do you guys agree that you have political engagement through Twitter, like good political engagement through Twitter? Okay, no takers, I guess. See, in my opinion, being a journalist, I feel Twitter is a toxic wasteland at the end of the day when it comes to political thought, because everyone is just hating on each other, no one is discussing anything. So in that context, is it creating clutter like Twitter does with political dialogue?
Perhaps a little bit of both. But I will say this, that I personally, I never took myself seriously as a poet, and perhaps didn't have the confidence to call myself a poet for many years until I wrote one single political poem and I put it very innocently on my Instagram. At that point, my Instagram was a very personal space that was mainly for my family and friends, and pictures of myself on the beach with my best friend and things like that. And I put up this one poem, and viral, as you know, and
So the one
on the Paris
on the
bombings.
Paris bombing.
Yeah. And overnight, I had the BBC calling me, the New Yorker calling me. I had refugees in Mexico messaging me saying, you've really spoken my heart. And I had always thought of social media poetry as a wasteland sort of poetry, as you said. I had thought of it as something frivolous and a bit attention seeking. And I just thought, oh my God, there's so many people who are putting up junk on Instagram and Twitter and calling it poetry. And I'm a very old school kind of poet in that sense. And I didn't want to identify as an Instagram poet or a social media poet. But I realized the power of the social media poet through this one incident. And that gave me the confidence to start calling myself a poet and a social media poet as well. And I think you said something very important earlier. You said that it's free, and what that does is make poetry democratic, which I think is so very important as well. Would you agree?
You're a multilingual poet.
Yes.
So many languages. Now, Urdu, and when we were discussing poetry at any of the event, I made one thing. I only write in English. I can't write in any other language. She writes in 4 languages. And whenever I'm hosting an event or whenever I'm reciting my poem, I'll recite an English poem, and there'll be like these light claps, like that. 2 lines of Urdu by anyone, and the crowd goes mental. Right? I think that's the world we live in right now. That I think the words like shiddat, mohabbat, they have so much resonance as compared to love, right? To our minds. And I think which is why we have an entire popular culture. All our great songs are Urdu. To a great extent, all our favorite love songs, all our favorite songs about life are Urdu. And so social media to a great extent doesn't need to kind of like pander to a market, because there's already an established market for that. But for your other languages, has social media been that empowering force that you've been able, like Karuna was saying, she was able to connect with so many people across the world through social media. In the other languages that you write in, have you created a community, and that also an empowering community of writers through social media?
Of course. There's possibility that I don't get to meet my favorite poets. Some people, they are not able to meet me physically. But when they read what I write, you will be seeing 3 a.m. in the morning, somebody just messaged that I go through anxiety, I go through so much of depression, but what did you write? It just literally gave me something to hold on to and pass on. As you were talking, right, discussing, whatever be the medium, ultimately the whole aim is poetry. For example, you write with a 10 rupees pen and you also write with a Parker pen. But the entire intention of using the pen is to write. Ultimately, the medium changes. Now, if I be very rigid, that nahi bhai, poetry se page mein hui, it's be in a book, it has to be very technical, and Instagram poetry is not poetry, or social media poetry is not poetry. But it is ultimately. I know, I agree with it that there will be clutter, there will be too much of things, and then you will not be able to analyze, given we are already given so much of information at the end of the day, which is most of the time negative news. Okay, you will not be able to analyze what is good poetry from the clutter. But I think that is something that everyone, faces. A poet like me also faces. I want to read poetry, but I don't get much of it to read. But on social media, I do connect with really amazing young poets. The voice is really strong. They are technical. They are using, forms, And of course, slam poetry is something which is, dynamic. It's like beat poetry at the end of the day. You use the medium to speak up, which means you cannot be shut down. You cannot be told what to do. When you, right from the moment when you're born, you are asked, ye karo, ye karo, ye karo. Fall into the line. You cannot go out of the line. Everything is decided before you. But an art form is given to you to decide for yourself what gives you freedom, what gives you the voice, what gives you the space to be yourself. For me, poetry has been all about honesty. First, you be honest to your own feelings. As I was saying, we are living in a culture that we are not able to express our feelings, thus the mental issues that we are facing, physical issues, bonding issues, we have loneliness, we have anxiety, depression, and whatnot. Each of us have it. Most of them do not have that expressing tool. If you call yourself a poet, which means it's a grave, weight on you that you're a poet, but you go through a lot. So you have to be honest to your feelings. You be out there, be courageous, read, let other people read it. Some are going to like it, some are not going to like it. But we are in no position to judge that this is bad.
Yeah, and I think
We are not.
you said something really interesting about this, which coming back to what you were saying, that of course there will be poetry that you don't like.
Of course, there will be. I know.
But isn't that the same with everything?
Everything.
When I walk into this bookstore, there are books that I don't want to read. There's tons of books that I think are not high culture books or are not intellectually stimulating. And that's going to be the case with everything. So, like you have a bookstore for books, I think you have an Instagram for social media poetry, and it's up to us to pick and choose what we like. But what's beautiful is that more and more people are feeling confident
More
to
and
write.
more people are writing and reading.
And
now
reading
look
it.
at the graph
Exactly.
where it has gone. I will not judge Rupi Kaur if I don't ask, because we have discussions, very serious discussion when it comes to what is literary and what is not with my professor, who are poets,
We to decide.
who are to we
really.
decide, but if she's able to connect, then let her connect. It's all right. Why are we judging? Let us do our work. Let the other person do their work.
And there's been so much breath wasted on whether Rupi Kaur deserves her fame or not. And sometimes I want to tell writers, I want to tell them, hey, why don't you just go and write? You don't
Just
have
write,
to spend
and
time
read
yourself
for that matter.
whether Rupi
If you
Kaur
really,
deserves
if you
it.
really want to, discover what is good poetry for you, which means read the contemporary poets. अभी मैं किसी को पूछूं किसको पता नहीं है contemporary poetry क्या आती है या अभी के poets क्या लिख रहे हैं, but that is immense space and in other languages too. It's great.
But coming to what Karuna was saying exactly, if you do news, I mean in the newsroom at the end of the day, when I go to my channel's website or if I'm curating content from any of my shows on Twitter and everything, the first thing I look at is the comment section. And the comment section is where the wasteland begins at the end of the day. And the comment section, and it's like no holds barred abuse at the end of the day. There is no middle ground. You're either left or you're right, and no matter what stand you take, you're crucified on either end. Now, for a writer, when he enters that social media landscape, the backlash can be brutal at the end of it.
Scrutiny is everywhere.
It is brutal. Now, that's why I wanted to ask you guys. It's a two-layered question. How do you guys deal with the brutality of social media? There's the democracy. There's like I have my platform. I'm putting it out there. Everyone can see it. How do you deal with the brutality of the comment section? A, and B. We now live in a very politically charged era, where we are all affected by so many things in politics. You look at the CAA, NRC, and NPR protests, and it affects you at some level. And if it affects you, you want to write about it. It's like what Piyush Mishra once said, दो लफ्ज लिखूं दिल हल्का हो जाता है, दो लफ्ज लिखूं कागज पे चीख भी लेता हूं और आवाज नहीं निकलती. Right? So the point is that how do you stay away from writing about politics or hot issues, because even though it's like hitting you in the head, you avoid it, and how with that toxic comment section? If I want to begin with it.
Actually, I want to give it a little bit light on that section. When a poet or a composer music or writes a poem, actually he tries to draw a figure in his or her mind that he wants to display, that he wants to reveal. sometimes few people may not like it, few people may like it, but it is your choice. It's your freedom. It's your freedom to write. It's your freedom to compose. So we should not let ourselves, or any artist should let down themselves to for some bad comments or bad negative feedback. But we always have to keep this in mind that we are writing for a democratic country, and we should not go to that level of contradictions. So I think we should maintain that thing.
Ignore the trolls. No, sir.
Ignore the trolls.
अब 4 लाइनों में मैं बता रही हूँ, ये लिखी थी, क्यों लिखी थी, क्योंकि भाई मेरा घर जल रहा है अल्टीमेटली। सुकून किसे नहीं पसंद, वी ऑल वांट पीस ऑफ माइंड। घर पे परेशान है, बाहर परेशान है, काम पे परेशान है, सब जगह परेशान है, तो अल्टीमेटली कहाँ सुकून मिलेगा। तो मेरा घर जल रहा है, उनका घर चल रहा है, न जाने और कितने कितनों का घर चल रहा है। मेरा घर जल रहा है, उनका घर जल रहा है, न जाने और कितने कितनों का घर चल रहा है। इस जलने और जलाने की तलब में, इनके और उनके रंजिशों में, मेरा मुल्क, मेरा घर, मेरा जहान जल रहा है। It's a fact. Why am I saying this? Because see, most of my family members are in Pakistan. आधे यहाँ पे, आधे वहाँ पे. I never got the opportunity to connect like that. When my grandmother passed away, I had to show her dead body through a webcam. My auntie passed away last year, उनकी dead body through a webcam. So it left an impression on me कि भाई ऐसा तो नहीं होता. Don't get to meet your family for 30 years or 20 years for that matter. I know technological, advances have always talk over the phone, but वैसे नहीं होता. A human connect is always required. So a poet life is a lot complex than poet or a writer's life, artist's life. It's very complex. बहुत layers में हम जीते हैं, and then we put up a brave front that we are out there, and it's very risky that if you're telling the truth, because since he pointed out that we are living in not in a very peaceful age, लोगों को अपना मुद्दा सामने रखना होता है, and then of course फटाक से you are labeled national, anti-national, जो बोलना है भाई बता दें। हाँ भी हाँ, अब फिर अभी तो हिंदू मुस्लिम असली लेवल तो चल ही रही है।
The interesting thing is that I get both, and there's people who, there's trolls who come up with all sorts of abuse, and like you said, the democracy of the internet also allows for that. I do retaliate, but not directly to these people. I don't engage in that because I also think that as artists, we're also sensitive.
We are very sensitive.
And I think if you begin to engage with people who aren't sensitive, it can be really, really depressing.
I meant retaliating,
So when I retaliate, it is almost always through poetry again. So that's definitely an easier and a more profound of doing it. I'm sure you agree. But the very interesting thing that I have started noticing now is because I have spoken out about so many issues, political issues, there's also a different kind of trolling that's begun taking place in my life, which is confounding as well, is that I often get mails from people saying, why aren't you talking about this? Why this has happened, you have not mentioned this,
So
you're a traitor. Why aren't you doing this? Oh, it was very easy for you to do that, lekin ye ho raha hai. And that also amazes me, where people feel such a right to you personally and to your space because of social media. So that's also a complex kind of thing. Like you were saying, a poet's life has all kinds of layers to it.
Especially those who don't have privacy, they're going to poke you any time of the hour and expect an immediate answer.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're like, after your life, why didn't you do this?
Okay, now let's shift gears to the writing process itself. Okay, I always find that interesting because each and every poet has a very different writing process, and there are different things and there are different stimuli at the end of the day that really kind of motivate you to write. And like for me personally, if I'm not in the newsroom, I can't write because the newsroom, you see a spectrum of humanity. You see the best and the worst of humanity in a newsroom. And I always, everyone asks me that, so I write on very contemporary topics, Triple Talaq, Kashmiri Pandits, the army and everything. And it's always because I walk back home from my office. And in that long walk from my office to my house, I'm trying to process what's going on. And in that processing power, thank God for mobile phones. So then a thought comes to you, you whip out your phone, you take out the notes app, and you just, oh shit, before I forget this line, I better put it down.
Definitely, I do that as well.
Yeah. That's so important. And so I would like to know, like, what is your writing process? What is the thing that stimulates your mind at the end of the day? Is it the world, your own personal world around you? Because many people are passive to current affairs to a great extent, and their world around them kind of stimulates their writing. So let's going down. What's your writing process like?
Our working with, his name is Adbhutam, and we compose in that Adbhut way. It's basically an instrumental band, and we actually, the way you talked right now, so we have to get into that zone. So you can. Today I woke up and I decided I had to write a funny music. It did not happen actually. So we have to get into that zone. Sometimes you watch a movie and you get a better idea, or sometimes you see a dead tree and you get a better idea to write a horoscope for film movie for that. So we have to always think about that the essence of life. We always get inspired and influenced with the common people, the same road, our everyday life, and it influences us. It inspires us in everywhere. So that's why we actually try to compose.
Can you share a song?
Sure.
Can you sing a song of anything that you've written recently? Like,
Yeah, sure. I can. I'll try to play it here. Just give me a moment. So I can sing. I just have to. Yeah. I got my guitar, but I will surely play it for you. Sure.
or writing process.
Writing process. When I wrote this poem, again, जब आपकी
Recite the poem also.
it's okay to have things and it's okay to desire. It comes with a lot of things comes with a lot of baggages. Then she comes and tells me very sweetly, don't make it a little bolder, don't apply darker lipstick. I didn't ask for her opinion, but she just literally pasted on me. I said, I will do what I want. Okay, and there's so many aunties also, they'll come up and literally poke you. They don't let you breathe because they have certain agenda against you, So there's a lot of things that you go through in life, and then it has to go out. It has to, so that is how you get the inspiration, or rather the anger. Okay, at times you are so bitter, at times you are so broken, I don't sleep well, 2 hours a day I sleep at times, it happens, because so many things disturb me. That's why I want to write, I have to write. And also, when I'm reading, writing, you said writing is a very big process, but it's also a part of reading. When I read others' poems, I feel a lot more comfort than writing at times. Writing is also very, tiring. Constantly being at it, constantly. I really don't like being constantly, on social network. I will cut off. Like, I need to, be mentally safe to do things at times. Oh, as you said, a personal space नहीं होती है ना, कभी भी कोई भी कुछ भी बोल के चला जाएगा. Though you don't know the person, but they have certain expectations out of you. But you're a human being. You will make mistakes. You have your own issues. You do things. तो बस nobody can come and tell you. But ये होता है हमारा Indian society वैसा है that they are into your personal life, and then you just have to deal with it. So that's where the writing process for me is like that I have to write on things. So shall I recite the cure? Right, my country is sick. Would you like to hear it?
Why not?
So this, I will tell you, as you said, inspiration. How the writing process works within our heads. I saw Madari wala डुगडुगी बजा रहा है, बच्चे बहुत खुश हैं. मैं मेरी खिड़की से देखा है. From my window, when I look down, I saw that. Hear it. And I'm very observant. I enjoy little things. छोटी-छोटी चीजें मुझे दिखती हैं, मुझे काफी अच्छा लगता है. Because I have to hold on to that beautiful. World is just not ugly. There's beauty in it, but how do I project that? The same week I went to what do you call it, a cemetery, and then two people were talking about reading the newspaper. Bhai ye ho raha hai, wo ho raha hai. So this is on that. Madari wala bangs the trumping dugduggy. Nach mere bandar, aisa milega. And the kids' gleeful, momentary smiles falls off the edge of this day. From above my window, down in the alley, I see the monkeys somersaulting to his commands. His discourses, that of a man of political faith, promising yet empty. I mix the sky with the shadows of the dying embers on the burner that the child on my way back home still kept gathering in his tiffin box. Perhaps it is a dream of peaceful footprints. What was left of the autumn leaves burned down in the graveyard of those who died at war kept dispersing, diluting away from my grip, like those depressing dark days sulking away at my feet. I walked in the hailstorm, the while overpowering the senses of reason. In the park, man says to man, we want to avenge and we want to kill, while reading the newspaper. Who dies truly, common man or the country? The layers of luminous turquoise color on the grainy religion of my tongue becomes more prominent with each passing stroke on the painting of the graveyard and the once forgotten patriotic poet in the grave. I couldn't see the spring flowers again. They had fallen off and swept away in the storm. I asked the sweeper cleaning the roads since 1947, is my country sick or the people's mind? Thank you.
I find the rituals of religion, their stories and secrets, so beautiful. They're like small doorways to the divine. Who was the first person to say, the doorways of my home are better than yours, more beautiful and ornate, more large, more intricate? And how come they didn't say instead, come my friend, you take your doorway and I will take mine. I cannot wait to see you on the other side. We will meet in the same place, in the courtyard with the unending sky, in the lap of the divine, and discuss our journeys over a shared cup of wine.
This reminded me of two lines by Rumi. There's a garden between right doing and wrong doing.
Beautiful,
I need you there. It just reminded me of that.
Beyond this thing, there's the garden.
Like I said, my writing process was the news, and this one poem of mine has, I think, other people have. It's been resonated with a lot of other people. It was the one I wrote when we were doing the coverage on Triple Talaq, when it was being debated in the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha, and we were doing these stories on the victims of Triple Talaq. And there was this one piece of footage which, for I think 3-4 days, I couldn't get it out of my head. It stuck with me. It was this image of this lady dressed in a burqa, and she'd been locked out by her husband, who said talaq, 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 and kicked her out of the house. And the reason he gave for the triple talaq was she didn't wake up in time to make him breakfast. And he kicked her out of the house, and there's this shot of her grabbing the grill of the gate, just shaking it violently. And what also got me was, right, you know, you have those nameplates on the gates, right? It said advocate. So the husband was a lawyer, and he did that. And you know, like, Triple Talaq was one part of the entire thing, and then we have other news stories also. But for some reason, for 3 days in that walk from my office to my house, I just couldn't get that image out of my head. It stuck with me, and I didn't know how to process it. You know, we were doing, and because the debates over Triple Talaq were continuing every day, we kept playing that image again and again and again and again. So every day I was like faced with that image. So then what happened was I interviewed some of them. And what I realized in that interview was many of the women who are subjected to the injustice of Triple Talaq have not even read the Quran. They put their faith in the Maulvis, in the clerics. And when they're told that what's happened to you is un-Islamic, they don't have a defense, because they're like, I've never even read the Quran. I've just been told this is what it says by these men. So that interview also had a huge impact on me, and I wrote this poem called "Am I Not God's Child?" Because I'm like, if the world isn't grieving, could the prophet be grieving for these women? So it goes something like this: the union of two souls I thought, a home for new life and love I always sought. Hoping for happiness, was I naive? He said it was God's decree he could abandon me and leave. Discarded, a shroud of shame they wrap around me. Do you think the prophet would grieve? Is anger my right or is it blasphemy? I learned compassion from God, never savagery. My child looks for his father. He wipes my tears, wondering why I weep. I teach him my faith, but I fear what a man he will be. Do you think the prophet would grieve? How could he have such control over my life? Why am I just a man's wife? Where is my aspiration? Where is my aspiration? My wings, my shield. Where is my aspiration? My wings, my shield. Was I raised to go to an alien home and yield? I have been blind. My faith could not elevate me. Do you think the prophet would grieve? My justice now is in the hands of impostors, long beards, meager hearts, and no less than monsters. They twist God's intentions, make the faithful cower. I didn't even open the divine book. I gave them this power. Greed, misogyny, and apathy, wrapped in holy tapestry. Do you think the prophet would grieve? There is no real sanctuary for me. There is a roof, but no home to live free. Faith wielded by the unkind, my apathy too is my bane. Others may hope, but I will just be another name. No salvation from the God I love, I decay painfully. Do you think the prophet would grieve? Thank you.
This actually tells me like you are just not talking about yourself, but then again you become like a mirror. You know, the writer is like a mirror. You know, you reflect what you see. Rather from your perspective, at times from the other perspective. But it's very relatable. That's the, I think that's why the Insta poetry also works, because of the relatability and accessibility, of course. No, it's a universal problem. It's just not your problem, or the other person's problem. A universal problem at times.
And any good poem is driven by a sense of empathy. If you are not empathetic to the world around you, you can never mind your own heart to find the words to kind of like portray that. And I want to move on to this another part of the session. When it comes to political stories and all of that is there around us, do you think that our poetry or art is the best mobilization of an idea at the end of the day, beyond the political banter that goes on? Because let me be honest about it, on a news channel, when I turn on those, when I produce them myself, but when I turn on those 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock debates, I am not getting any information. I'm getting noise. Right? There is nothing that kind of like elevates my thinking about it. There is no, I get political drama out of it. And to a great extent, there was this top producer, I remember when I had just joined CNN News 18, and I asked him, at that time Rajdeep sir was running the channel and we were number one, and I asked him, sir, who is your competition? India Today, Times Now, there was no Republic then, India Today, Times Now, NDTV. He said, boss, our competition is Comedy Nights with Kapil Sharma.
I was just going to say to you, Ashwin, that that nowadays I think I put on the news for my entertainment and I go to social media for my news and my information. Actually,
that's what's happened. At the end of the day, even television is turning into the wasteland that Twitter is. But I always want to know that if you look at the greatest national anthems of the world, which are like ingrained in all of us, they've all emanated from poems. Star Spangled Banner of the United States, Tovarish from Israel, they're all great poems. So, till this day, do songs and poetry have that power, have the power to mobilize people and to kind of like instill the eternal nature of ideas beyond politics?
In case of music or in case of poems, I would like to tell you that when we compose or someone writes a poem, it's not about an entertainment anymore. You know? A poem or a music should bring the fire within you. It should enlight the fire within you, and it should encourage you to to give up your limits, to overcome your limits, and energy, and that energy in that artwork, in the poem, it may be it may be a painting, or it may be a song. It has to be influencing, or it has to be inspirations for others.
I always also want to bring in this point, like the Me Too movement, which kind of was created by the social media landscape.
True.
At the end of the day, beyond the allegations that were made, there were these great pieces of poetry which also came out.
Yeah.
Out of that.
Yeah.
These great pieces of poetry which also emerged. They became anthems. People started making posters and T-shirts out of it. I still feel that poetry has the power. Words still have power. Has social media just kind of upped the ante of their effect? Like if you see in movements like the Me Too movement, if any of you want to...
If you look, like, go back to history, in times of war, what did Hitler do first? No, he destroyed the books and art pieces. He tried to destroy those. What books and art represents is not just the culture of people, but the time, the voice, the strength, and even if you die, something can live on for years and years and years, you know. I just read a poem by a Chinese poet. It was on a papyrus, and after 2000 years, it's in a book. It can survive. It has that strength to survive. And that's why so many things survive. And why do I would just say, the people in power are afraid of the intellectuals, or rather, poet, artist, and other, you know, people, because they know, they understand knowledge is power, art is power, poetry is power, music is power. It gives us an edge. Like the common man maybe not able to express this, but we do it. We reach out. We reach out. We bang the doors. We ask you to come out outside on the road and protest and say what you want to. We make it happen, and that's why people are afraid. That's why that people in power are afraid.
So when you asked the question, I whispered two words, "Hum dekhenge." But you were talking about Me Too, and I actually was not going to read or perform any other poems today. But when the Me Too movement was taking place, when it kind of started, and there was all this fire and anger, this collective feminine anger that we could feel, and I think as women, we all felt so empowered and so justified in that moment, and it was wonderful. But I wrote something at that point, and I've never done this before, but I was inspired to actually write a kind of slam rap poem. So I'll try and do it right now, just because I think it's a different kind of poetry, and it'll be nice to have that. If I mess it up, forgive me, because I'm not a rapper. So I'll try. Should I stand? It might be better, no?
What's your...
Okay. I'm a size 12 girl with firecracker blood. I'm used to getting pushed right down to the mud. You call me Bim Bet cause I lack etiquette. If I believe the shit you talk, I never have self-respect. So I pave my way through your sex-starved gaze, your abuse and disgust when a woman feels lust. I'm a hot-blooded lady with my finger on the pulse. I don't owe you perfection, I don't care if you're repulsed. By my quick wit answer to your dipshit self, I won't sleep with your boy nor with anybody else. I'm a big girl now, I got a mind of my own. Got a wardrobe full of clothes that your papa won't approve. I wear my jeans up high, keep my expectations low. Cause I've rarely met a man here who didn't turn out to be a troll.
Loved it.
That was awesome.
So now she used other means to say what she wanted to.
Exactly,
Like
yeah.
Instagram,
Yeah.
okay, music, mixing of the arts, okay, to present, and that something is going to be, stay in people's mind.
It's just a new medium.
It's new medium, you use it.
It's
and
a
why not?
perfect fusion, I guess.
Perfect
It's a
fusion.
perfect fusion.
Yeah. It's just another message.
That's it. How you put it, it's up to you. And with times you have to change, You have to change. You use the current that's available there to you, and then just make the most of it.
I also believe that in this country there is a huge battle between traditionalism and modernism. It really is. And social media offers such an evolution of ideas. I believe it's created a lot of fertile ground for us to, let's say, reimagine our traditional characters. I think now there are debates emerging about, like in Britain, like Winston Churchill was the great war hero. Now there are debates emerging because of social media. Was he a war criminal? What he did in India. Also, at least I also find in the Indian context something very interesting, that social media has mobilized this redefinition of Ram. Is trying to happen, because earlier, he's the figure of virtue. And now in social media, there's this amazing poem called Sita Sings the Blues, right? And so Ram is now being shown as that as let's a negative figure to a great extent in the greater feminist narrative. And while that has emerged, there has been a counter narrative to that we only know Ram when Sita went into the earth and he went back to Ayodhya with love and Kush. We don't know how Ram felt after that. So I always toyed with that idea that I think we, like, at least when we were growing up, we attach ourselves to Ram in different parts of our lives. When we were younger, he's this hero. When you get a little older, okay, he's a little dodgy. And now that when you're an adult, man, he treated his wife really badly. So there's an evolution of, as we grow up, the character evolves with us. So whenever I do jam sessions in, let's say, Delhi, there's one, I would say, because the majority of the crowd which comes are like women who sing, who kind of recite poems like, daughter, don't be like Sita. My daughter should not be like Sita. Ram, you did not love your wife. Okay, and I'm like, okay, fine, valid. You have valid points of view and all of that. Of course, what he did was wrong. Then I come up and I'm like, I have a different take on it. So I wrote this poem called Rama's Lament, which is what I see is that after he went back to Ayodhya and he was revered by everyone and even his children, I feel he was a very sad man. I feel he was full of sadness and regret over what he did. And there's this, so it goes something like this. They chant my name, with fiery hearts they scream. They call me a savior from a wise mystic's dream. I buried their villain, washed the earth's soul clean. But I just smile at them with a heavy heart, for I miss my beloved queen. They marvel at me and call me divine decree. They say I am a prophet of virtue and duty. They cling to me for meaning, put me in gilded castles, but I am hollow, just as that inanimate life, for I miss my beloved wife. I was only godly with her by my side. I was only a king when I felt her strength nearby. I was only a man when her hand was in mine. Only for her did I make the heavens kneel. Oh, how I miss my beloved queen. My father always told me to follow my heart. Why did my earthly duty tear it apart? I sit atop a golden tower as my people hope and pray. I breathe in these clouds, but they taste so damn stale. Oh, how I miss my beloved wife. Rebirth, this power may be mine. How do I redeem myself? No other can play her part. I once roamed the earth as Narsimha, a grotesque beast. But he protected his child. He had more of a heart. Oh, how I miss my beloved queen. I turned my back on her, and she returned to the earth. Even death can't reunite us. My divinity is my curse. I see her in all creation in the compassion of our sons. They'll be better men. As her love mocks me the same. Let humanity see, even a god hangs his head in shame. Oh, how I miss my beloved wife. But yeah, it's quite controversial to say this in a room full of feminists and them just not like pointing their fingers at you and all of that. But there you go. That's the democracy of ideas at the end of the day. And
Feminism is about equality to men and women both.
so men can also feel depressed.
Of
no?
course. Why will feminists point at you? Because they don't know what is feminism is. Simple.
Then they're not feminists. Yeah, there you go.
Feminism is about equality. It's just not about women's rights.
And that is actually also a debate in the Me Too movement. There is this split down the middle now. That one is the fight for equality. One is, what is it? There was this MP who said it is #whinging. Like women complaining for no reason, and it's coming from many women, especially many female politicians. To a great extent, in that democracy of ideas, like we said, there are villains and there are heroes. But in your opinion, does the nobility of an idea prevail, or does it get snuffed out very easily in the wilderness of social media?
Nobility idea through in the
Nobility
perspective
of-
of poetry, really to that.
In the notion of justice, you're using your expression to say the right thing for whatever reason. Do you think that the nobility of an idea can survive the social media landscape, has survived, or is there still a challenge for it to be snuffed out by contrary voices?
No, it will survive.
Will survive.
Come social media, no social media, because social media just happened. It was not there before. Still, good art survived. So likewise, and why just good art? The idea. You have ideologies. You have theories. You have people who are philosophers. Through we hold on to them, and then it's like life teachings. It survived, and so would a good art. So would life. So would people. As I said, there will be negative, positive to everything. There's negative, positive to music also, art also, poetry also. What is good, what is bad, So, but we just do our work. If we sit and think through, भाई मुझे Nobel Prize का ही लिखना है तो फिर हो गया फिर.
हाँ, फिर तो कभी नहीं होगा.
Something नहीं होगा. We just want to write that.
So, coming back to the notion of hope in the social media era, and I think we'll cycle down the session so we can get to the great music, and let's go around one last time, and on that notion of hope that you're talking about, a piece of verse from you on the notion of hope, if you have any. Hope or a positive message to the world.
जिंदगी बोल तुझे हुआ क्या है, तुझे मेरी जान की कसम बता मेरी खता क्या है. मैं जो तुझे खुशी से जीना चाहूँ तो तेरे जख्म सुलगते हैं. मैं जो तेरे गम में डूब कर मरना चाहूँ तो तेरी हंसी निगाहें नम हो जाती हैं. ऐसे ना ले इम्तिहान मेरा, मैं जीती हूँ बस तेरे ही लिए. गमे जिंदगी बोल तुझे हुआ क्या है, तुझे मेरी जान की कसम बता मेरी खता क्या है.
Do you want to go? Yeah. Okay. This is the. Okay. On that note, this is a poem called Silent Sun. This is a poem which is kind of like the title poem of my book, Silent Sun, which you can find here if you guys are interested. So the philosophy behind this poem is that we are living in a world where we're too conditioned. Yeah, we don't get to say what we feel. There is a fire inside us, and it comes on through very powerful, sometimes very enlightening, sometimes very tragic ways. But only when we go through those motions of life do we connect with who we are inside. Otherwise, we're very conditioned to aisa bolo, aisa karo, aisa bolo. But only through life can we discover what our truth is and find our own path. So there's always a silent sun inside of us. It's like the sun in space. It burns brightly, but आवाज बिल्कुल नहीं आती उसकी. So it's all inside of us, and it's only revealed to us once we go through life, once we take the hits, but we keep moving forward, as Rocky keeps saying. So this is a poem called Silent Sun, and it goes something like this. A power so great in a shell so frail, celestial decree from the primordial well, wading through the past with an eye on eternity, defiant even on the edge of oblivion, I am the silent sun. Sleepless under the gaze of my fables, the empires of my zeal, strong yet unstable. I seek no dominion over things, only destiny. I fear a life of static peace, unremembered, undone. I am the silent sun. I am no empty wanderer, abject and meek. In crusades and solitude, only meaning I seek. Gods and nations, I am tethered to them all. They are praise of time, only I outrun. I am the silent sun. All the pain I have ever known, every joy, love, and faith reborn, all intertwined in my fragile veins. Beyond memory, this enlightened chaos will burn. I am the silent sun. No king, no slave, no hero, no prophet. I am that fire that is, and then no more. chains and wings of my choice, a will no less or greater than human. I am the silent sun.
And I think that inspired me to read something on hope and winter, but first you. Okay. Winter. I can breathe you in, winter, your soft folds settling on my parched body hair and nourishing the barren roots of my skin. It has waited an entire summer to hear the murmuring of the migrating pigeons above my whirring temple. They are always in your search. The skylight of my soul now burns in the Diwali diya to feel the familiar fragrance that cradles my memories of you. The wrinkled hands, the baby skin smell, and the soft glow of regeneration. Zohar Azan breaks through the line of imagery I tried recalling. I often forget. Why is it I love to love? Maybe the craving for you makes me forgetful. As I open my mouth, words roll over my tongue and plunge in the ink of exuberance. I can see now new beginnings in the fallen shuli flowers and birds of daisies in my garden. It's drizzling love today and a strange feeling of hope.
So this isn't a poem, well, perhaps it's a hopeful poem, but it's not exactly a poem about hope, but it's about something that I think will make sense considering we're at a literary festival together. Some of us arrive aching. We were born broken-hearted. The rain makes us sad, and a day at the beach makes us emotional. Even being happy does that. Because some of us are acutely aware of the transience of every single moment. So our lives are one long exercise in compassion and nostalgia. Whatever this is, it is a different kind of normal, where music is not a sound, but a portal to a past life experience, where good food makes us collapse with gratitude and a desire to share. This is a precious version of normal, where the full moon causes cracks in our surfaces, an open road calls out with the voices of angels, the scent of a lily destroys all anger, and a sunset transforms the future into something bright. Sometimes we struggle with this, and then we call it depression. Sometimes we channel it, and then we call it art.
I want to throw it out to the audience now. Does anyone want to share a piece of verse?
Actually, I had gone through an operation, and at that time, I had gone through some self-knowing, that is cognition. So sitting idle on a reclining chair, I flung myself on its soft swinging back and asked my mind, what is thought? Where does it come from? Is it an idea or accumulation of past? Thought proclaims, I am the offspring of your mind. Mind, the mother of thought, keeps generating thousands and thousands of me. Sometimes I am in the form of pleasure, sometimes in the mode of distress, many often loaded with activities and for a while in comfort mode. But I am eternal. This very structure, has made me imperishable. I can vitiate the world, infusing virulent venom into man. I can make the world beautiful by flowering goodness on it. As goodness, the seed of growth, catalyzes absolute transformation of mind. Having imbued me with the sense of exhilaration, thought disappeared, leaving another fragment of it, a revolutionary thinking for change.
Can you tell us what is the name of your book and when is it going to be available?
The Catalyst.
And your name?
My name is Molly Bhomik.
Anyone else? Yeah, please. Yeah, go for it. Introduce yourself. Name of your poem. Go for it.
Hello everyone. I will not rather call it a poem because I don't consider myself to be a poet at all. I just write some lines based on some my personal observation, and I just, as all of you discussed few minutes ago, I observe certain things. I tend to react based on certain observations. I want to share my feelings whenever I get hurt. I tend to give vent to my frustrations at the political events that are actually hurting our nation, our country, all the people, irrespective of classes, races, whatever it is. So this is a personal poem which I wrote few days ago. My name is Shorindam Shamadar and I'm a student of Calcutta University. Uh, without wasting much time of your, I'm just moving towards. It's a personal record of a woman who is basically alone despite having siblings and their wives and children, although she is not married to someone else. Even living in a family consisting of so many people, she and her brother are basically alone. Her brother is a patient of kidney and on the verge of death. So this is basically dedicated to her. The name of my poem is, or rather the lines, The Bloody Blubbering. Blood oozes out of those white dark eyes. The cataracts need to be removed twice. Situation has chastised the old lady twice, squeezing her brow to excessive cries. Fired from job while money has stopped, what has the lady been left to be robbed? What can she do if not ruminate? She will have none to deliberate. Walking along the road to fire, she has wended the poisonous lane. Walking alone in the need of dire, she has plotted the ugliest terrain. No guardian angel to relieve the pain, no guardian above to bespeak, only darkest pavements to preambulate, with a disabled brother discreet. The bright sky above has mocked them havoc, with a number of useless siblings. Who can usefully link her body with pink and assert the familiar lynch? Preparing her grave, they hardly a grace, and spite the venom with grace. You die, both die, so quick damn fie, may you find no rest or relief. They add, you do, the few and few, may you find no scope to meet a hope, to live the life to cope. You search for peace and grope for ease, and still find no ray of hope. Her sick brother in a rage has divulged his grapes to mingle in the sea of waves. Smitten and defeated yet, yelling to be sedated, he hankers for the life with a hell. Their deceased desire to ward off perils, their dogged desire to cherish a will that begets the yearning to defy succumbing for making the life a happy hellish founding. The sky that mocks with a deride to chalk showers the dismay of fortune to ridicule her utter misfortune. With a void circumventing, once she asked while venting, how much knowing is left to be met? How long drudgery will lead us to death? The end seeming near, the mind void of fear contemplates suicide at times. Sometimes again, the mind in frame differs the similar design. The roaring call of death when stares to its prey, the unresting cry clamors, the mind yet yells so far, I want, just not to die. If life is a lie, I wanna live a lie. A sharp knocking is now being audible. The guest seems there invisible. Who is there behind the door? Has now death thus reached the threshold? Has the end smeared with gold come to take us from this hole? A space with sinners winning the crown, a place with cowls and the rapacious fowls, stripping the humans of humanity and relegating the conscience to hollow hybridity. The world goes on with utter cruelty without being perturbed as to the hapless petty. The petty will die, the pretty feel shy, beauty will continue to get its due. From a distance, we will see the real beauty will perish and perish in diseased policies. The disease will continue to spread all over. The petty will continue to relish the flavor. The petty will continue to relish the flavor. The petty will continue to perish forever.
Thank you so much for that. And now for the peace day resistance of the session, we have you regale us with great music.
We'll start off with an instrumental piece of ours. This is just jamming. So much, and let me introduce with my friend. Thank you so much. Thank you. Let me introduce with my mate, and he's a fantastic singer, and his name is Amit. And hello everyone. Today we made a musical composition on one of the Kumar Vyogi's sonnet, Love Me As I Am, and hope you will like it.
So,
Let's start then.
This is the sonnet I got a few days back and I was told to compose this. So एक गाने में बेसिकली क्या होता है कि कुछ वर्सेस होते हैं और एक कोरस होता है. तो एक सोनेट में कोरस नहीं होता. So I added a few lines into it and made a chorus for that sonnet. So I'll be singing that lines in between. So here we go. Love me as you do for what I am, and not for what you want that I should be. Because the love that limits is a shame, and love is real when it sets us free. You're free to suck the honey from the flowers, like the butterflies and the bees, for endless mating and indulgent hours, flying fleetingly amid plants and trees. So love me as I am, here in front of you, the way that I am, and I love you too. So love me as I am, I'm here without you. So take me in your arms and make me believe that you love me as I am. So love me as I am. To feed themselves and help pollination, would marry much ado causing pain. To players in the wonder of creation, for one they get sustained and stay sustained. So let's make a confidence, me and you. Love me as I am, and I will too. So love me as I am, I'm here in front of you, the way that I am, and I love you too. So love me as I am, I'm here without you. So take me in your arms and make me believe that you love me as I am. Ooh, so love me as I am. So love me as I am.
Yay!
Thank you so much.
Lovely.